Hello, Emmy fans. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby, and as the Emmy season heats up, one of the most talked about broadcasts this season was Rent Live on Fox, and I'm sitting here with Jason Sherwood, who brought us the gritty 90s East Village right to our TV screens. Thanks for sitting down with me today. I'm curious, this is a beloved musical. Had you seen Rent before taking on this project?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I saw Rent on Broadway when I was, a teenager. And I think the first time I saw it, I bought a student rush ticket. So I sat like the first row and it just sort of washed over me. And it was like a palpable, unforgettable experience. I mean, it was just completely formative for me. Then I saw the show a bunch more times during its Broadway run. I was a huge fan, and I knew every word front to back when I had the interview about the job. So I was definitely a fan for a long time.
When you took this job, do you think that your initial theatrical experience with it informed your own design?
I think that when I sat down with the producers, Mark Platt and Adam Siegel, and our directors, Alex Rosinski and Michael Greif, part of why they decided to work with me on this was my general enthusiasm and love for the material, in the sense that I came with a lot of knowledge about it and a lot of expectations about what it could be, in the same way that a lot of the audience at home would. And I think that they sort of responded to that positive energy. And then the other aspect of it was just sort of my work as a theatrical set designer, but then also someone who works in a live music and television format. So doing, concert tours for pop stars like Sam Smith and the Spice Girls gives a certain sort of music sensibility that lives inside of Rent. So I think that really my love for the material and then sort of this theatrical music straddling that line, came to like a confluence of why we all came to work together.
And I'm always interested with designers where you get your inspiration from, whether it's the work or something outside of that. Is there something you can pinpoint as your main inspiration for this set?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in a very sort of literal way, the East Village in the early 90s and the late 80s was an area that was just like rife with artistic expression. You had all kinds of emerging artists working there doing exploded mural work and sculptural work and work with found materials and performance art. And, that's in the very body of what Rent is. So as far as finding, visual research to make those things, there was a huge wealth of information available to us. And then just the team members in general, a lot of them having lived in New York at that time. But I think that, the key thing for me, like from a storytelling point of view is, how do you get at sort of the essence or the DNA of a piece like Rent, which is ultimately about community and people and then finding their chosen families. And so the way that influenced the design, that word community in particular, became kind of a guiding principle for how we laid it out. Instead of a traditional, the audience is here and there are the playing spaces and the cameras between them capturing that, we wanted to create a community event where the actors telling the story were visible on camera in virtually every shot with audience members who were spread around them in a 360 environment to form sort of a dialogue between the story itself, the people of the world, the audience at home, all at one time. And so as far as the main inspiration, I would say it would be that kernel of an idea, which was something that I spoke about with the creative team from our very first meeting.
When I was watching it, it really is, it's kind of immersive in a way, which is impressive to pull off in a TV setting. And you watch it and you just think this is immense. It's an immense playing space. How did you go about defining all those different levels and spaces for yourself?
Totally. So basically we were in a huge stage at Fox, which is just like a big empty warehouse. And the first time I walked in there, probably 5 months before the broadcast only, I was like, this room's perfect because it was naturally gritty and it had sort of a sense of sort of the rundown quality that we would want. And then Michael Greif and I began sort of mapping out the places that we needed to go and assigning them to corners of the room. So basically we described the space as a series of islands connected by a series of passerelles or runways, which became sidewalks. And then everywhere that there wasn't an island or a person or a piece of scaffolding became audience members. So we had standing audience in mosh pits, we had seated audience on seats, seated audience, and risers. And we began mapping the show, and we knew that there were several sequences where we wanted to literally follow a character from one end of the room to the other continuously without stopping. I think in the third or fourth act of the show, in the song Will I, we walk with Mark and his camera all the way around the room while everyone's lighting candles. And you just get this sense of the full immersion of the audience, and also the sense that all of these stories, separate as they are amongst other characters, some of whom never meet, are interconnected inside a larger theme. And so that was, you know, sort of the hope, was that we'd be able to pull that off and capture that on camera. So I'm excited to hear that you thought we did.
Yeah, definitely. And as a Rent fan, you must have been very excited to work with Michael Greif. You know, you're collaborating with a lot of different people when you're making this. Does he give you sort of requirements that he says, I need this side of the set?
Totally. I mean, Michael and I sat at this table behind me for many, many hours last summer and plotted through the show. First, we were looking at me drawing things by hand on diagrams as ground plans, and then we were looking at sketches, and then we were looking at a white model, and then we were pre-visualizing the whole thing in a 3D model in the computer so that we could understand camera shots with Alex Rosinski, who was the television director. And there was a lot of, you know, communication up until, I mean, we were changing things on set up until, you know, the day of tape. So it was a really kind of beautiful and thorough and incredible collaboration. And yes, the first part of your question, it was a complete and strange and surreal dream come true to sort of respect and admire someone's work for so long, and then to be, you know, an intimate part of their process and on a huge collaboration of a piece that began their career 25 years ago and was huge in your life. So it was this very, very strange Twilight Zone-y moment, and I was, you know, so grateful to be a part of it.
And with shows like this, I mean, Rent is iconic. It meant a lot to a great deal of people. It was, you know, highlighting groups that were not highlighted on Broadway before. So when you're taking a pre-existing show like this, is there a desire for you as a designer to pay homage to the original, or is it sort of, I have to get away from that and reinvent it?
Totally. I mean, the original was in and of the essence of the East Village in the 90s entirely. So to not, you know, sort of lean into aspects of what it was would be to deny what the piece is itself. I think that, you know, we really wanted to sort of pour water on the original ideas and let them grow. They had to grow for a television format. There needs to be more for the eye to grab. But there were a lot of conscious decisions made to Easter egg the show a little bit. There's a lot of homages to, you know, Jonathan Larson, the late author of the piece, and to his personal life. There are some literal costume pieces from the original show that made their way into certain scenes as sort of set dressing items that we wanted people to be able to spot if they wanted to. But then there were moments when we knew we really had to depart. Angel built a Christmas tree out of trash, and trash sculptures in Alphabet City were common to a certain degree in that time, and there were several famous ones. And the original tree on Broadway is iconic and was very, very specific. And one of the first ideas I showed Michael for that tree, he said, you know, out of respect to those original creative team members, we have to go somewhere very different with this. And so we made a series of very, you know, distinct choices about when to lean in and when to, you know, do something really, really different. And by the nature of the format and being in the round and immersive, we had to make those choices because we weren't with a stage and an audience on the other side. So it was a great opportunity to sort of dig a little deeper and look around the backsides of things when we couldn't before.
Yeah. The tree went over, where I was viewing, the tree went over very well. Everyone said,
great.
Oh my God, look at what they did with the tree. And in terms of important stories, this isn't really the only time you've, you know, tackled something that's very near and dear to you know, oppressed communities or minority communities. You were nominated for the Lucille, excuse me, it's been a long day and I can't speak, the Drama Desk and the Lucille Lortel Awards for your work on The View from Upstairs, which is a very important piece of queer theater. How important is the story behind what you're working on when you're searching for a project?
Totally. I mean, the first thing I say when I have a meeting with someone about a project is that I am a heart creature myself, and that I need sort of the thing that I'm working on to be something that I care deeply about, whatever that means. Even just getting to interview for Rent, I laid it on the line for them. I was like, I'm a gay person. It's the first time I ever saw two gay people in love. singing a love song to each other, it transformed my life. The visibility around that, the representation around that was utterly life-changing. And the view upstairs is a similar thing, to get to create a safe space in literal form for this play that was about a safe space for the queer community in a time when they were constantly in danger, is just a huge privilege and opportunity and, you know, responsibility to sort of serve that up. I would say that for me in my design work, I like to have a personal connection to something, which doesn't mean that it's about me or people I know per se, but just that I can sort of find an empathetic bridge between me and the piece, so that I can understand it and fall in love with it, and for it to frustrate me, and for it to, you know, sort of bring that all up again. And it can be big or small, and it doesn't always have to be quite so deep. I mean, the Spice Girls were the first concert I ever attended as a kid, and now I'm designing their reunion world tour. And I love their music, and it's fun. It doesn't, you know, change my life per se, but I do know that, like, the transformative quality of a live music experience when you're 8 years old, where, you know, they're celebrating what it means to be an individual, those are transformative themes. And so the synchronicity of all of that, I do love for there to be a personal connection of a kind, for sure. Makes my work better, I think.
I want to talk about the Spice Girls because in addition to theater work, you design a lot for concerts. You've done Sam Smith's world tour. You're working with the Spice Girls, Camila Cabello at the Grammys. So do you think that your work in that realm kind of informs your theater work when you step back into that?
Totally. I think everything's a conversation with each other. I design a lot of events also, and I think that the sort of interplay of the different kinds of storytelling, sort of, they all talk to each other. I think that initially the first television gig I did was a performance for the Chainsmokers on Saturday Night Live. And I think that I was approached about that because of how theatrical my work is. And then the same thing with Sam Smith. I know that Sam was searching for someone with a theater or an opera background who would have a storytelling eye, and it wouldn't be so much like a rock show. And so that was a lot of, you know, what our work was about, was that storytelling. But then I think it goes back in the opposite direction, because then, you know, when I'm approached about a theater project like Rent, they're saying, well, we want that live music sensibility. And so they're sort of talking to each other in a really nice way. And primarily I'm interested in things that are new, if not to the world, in the sense of, you know, a piece like Rent has been done before, but it was new to me, and it was in a new format, and it was with a new group of people. And so this opportunity to sort of, you know, you find something new within it is exciting. And then to do something myself that I haven't done as a challenge is appealing, because otherwise, you know, I'm bored.
So in that sense, do you have, like, is there one sort of aesthetic that you feel that kind of describes your work?
No, I mean, I think as designers, we make fun of ourselves sometimes when you see yourself sort of going down a similar path to something you've done before. And like I have a lot of my work is very geometric, and I'll be sort of drawing something, and I'll be thinking about it, and I'll be like with a Sharpie on a blank piece of paper, and then I'll look at it and I'll be like, ugh, another big dumb shape, and I'll sort of throw it out because I feel like you have things that you lean on, or things that just appeal to you as far as, you know, what you find beautiful or what you find meaningful or how you approach things. But I think that because of how varied the projects that I've been given the opportunity to work on so far have been, it's forced me around to different styles and to different, you know, scales as well. I mean, you know, sometimes I'm working on a project like Rent, which is for television and will be seen by millions of people. And then sometimes, like this week, I'm doing a theatrical project in New York City that has an audience of 50 every night and runs for 3 weeks. So what I like is that right now, where my projects are, is there's the reality of what's available to me, and the periods that those stories take place in, and the people that they're about, force me into all different kinds of corners as far as aesthetics go. And I can't just do one thing. I think if you only design Broadway musicals and you do 5 of them a year, you're in similar venues all the time. And though the stories change, a lot of the formats are similar. And so you find yourself maybe falling into a little bit of a repeated measure. But so far I've been lucky that, you know, lots of variety, which keeps my heart happy. Definitely.
Well, before I let you go, I was curious about what you would like to do next, because you said you want to do lots of, like, working on new things. So if you were approached to do another live broadcast like Rent, what kind of project would you like that to be?
I don't know. It would be tough. It would be tough for me to really, really get excited about another live television musical. Honestly, a dream job of mine is to design the opening ceremony of the Olympics. I think that would be unbelievable. Maybe one day that would be a thing, because I think that's sort of like the ultimate live production. And I think what's amazing about that kind of event is it's the same reason that Rent appeals to me. It's about sort of reaching across a divide. An opening ceremony is meant to be a celebration of culture, is meant to be a celebration of what makes a country unique, and then how it plays in the international community. And I think a way to sort of create a celebration of all of these different groups of people coming together for this worldwide event, and somehow synthesizing that into a visual and delivering something that felt like, you know, the beginning of something truly unique would be such an incredible challenge. And the amount of artists you get to work with, and the wealth of sort of cultural iconography that you get to mine from would be a dream come true.
That sounds like an awesome project. Well, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Jason.
Thank you so much.
I hope you get that opening ceremony someday. I would totally want to.
Oh, God. Thank you.
Everyone, stay subscribed for Gold Derby and keep up to date with all of our updates for Emmy season. And thank you again, Jason.
Thank you.